All right, so hello, my name is Mackenzie Mansell, and I will be your host for Unlocking Success, the Importance of Immigrant-Friendly Services. This workshop will be delivered in English. There is a live French translation available by simply clicking on the globe icon with interpretation written below it. We have time to answer your questions towards the end of this workshop. Immigrants play a vital role in the growth and cultural richness of nations around the world. To ensure their successful integration and contributions, providing immigrant-friendly services is not just a choice, but a necessity. Our workshop will be co-facilitated by 3 dynamic subject matter experts who will explore why these services are essential, their impact on individuals and communities, and how to design and deliver them effectively. Our first presenter is Daniel Cervan-Gil, the Associate Director of Employer Initiatives at World Education Services, or WES. In this role, Daniel leads WES's work with employers, employer-facing organizations, municipal and regional actors to create and socialize solutions, strategies, and new tools related to the recruitment, retention, and reskilling of immigrants. For over 15 years, Daniel has held various roles in international organizations, including the United Nations, forging strategic partnerships and building coalitions, not only within Canada, but internationally. He has extensively worked on migration and integration, engaging with civil society, government stakeholders, and businesses in exploring the competitive advantage of diverse workforces and in projects aimed at countering misinformation and online hate speech. Our second presenter is Dr. Farah Khattab, a highly accomplished academic and researcher with over 15 years of experience. Her roles have included recruiting talent, supervising research projects, and serving as a university professor teaching both undergraduate and graduate research and accounting courses. Dr. Khattab holds a doctorate in business administration and is dedicated to continuous learning and growth. Throughout her career, Dr. Khattab has published influential research papers and gained valuable international experience. She worked as a researcher at the local immigration partnership of Lanark and Renfrew, and currently she holds the position of director at the YMCA in the National Capital Region, where she leads the Wired Evaluating Settlement Services online research program. The WESO program involves conducting research with both newcomers and settlement staff and aims to enhance the quality of hybrid services, promotes digital inclusion for newcomers, and improves the overall settlement experience for newcomers. Our third presenter is Dr. Noah Zaher. She is a dedicated researcher who primarily specializes in data analysis, utilizing software such as Stata, SPSS, and Excel. With over 10 years of experience, she has served as both an accounting professor and a researcher, delving into diverse subjects ranging from accounting to climate studies. Presently, she is engaged in exploring the field of settlement. Noah holds a doctorate in accounting, a Master of Science in Management, and a bachelor's degree in finance and economics. Additionally, Noah has served as a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Ottawa and has held numerous positions as an accounting lecturer in accredited higher education institutions. So with all that said, please join me in welcoming our speakers. And Daniel, it is over to you to kick us off.
Thank you very much, Mackenzie, and thank you very much to the Lanark and Renfrew LIP for the invitation to be with all of you this afternoon. Before we get started, I thought it would be worth just saying a word about WES. So as you many of you may know, WES is one of the organizations in Canada and the US that provides educational credential evaluations. What many of you may not know is that we are a non-for-profit social enterprise and that we have as a mission to help international students, immigrants, and refugees achieve their educational and career goals. We were founded in the United States, and next year is actually our 50th anniversary, and started operations in Canada in 2000. And in this time, as I said, really setting the standard of excellence in the field of international academic credential evaluation has been our core focus. The credential evaluations of WES are used for multiple purposes, to access educational opportunities in Canada and the US, for employment purposes, as well as for immigration. WES was designated by IRCC in 2013 as one of the 5 credential evaluators in Canada to be used for educational credential accreditation for immigration purposes. Just to give you a sense, next slide, please, of what this means. I actually cannot see the slides, so I don't know if the slides are being shared. No. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so you can go straight to the blue slide, Levi. Yeah, perfect. So as I was saying, what this means, in Canada, we evaluate about 89% of all of the immigrant applicant credentials, which in 2022 represented over 300,000 completed credential evaluations. Now, while we are best known for our academic credential evaluations, we recognize that that's only one part of the equation when it comes to making sure that immigrants are successful in Canada. And that is why, as a social enterprise, once all of our operational costs are recovered, we reinvest all of our surpluses into social impact programming. Next slide, please. This is a description of our social impact division. Our team works to ensure that the value of people's educations and skills and experience gets recognized here in Canada. And so we like to speak about the 3 levers for change, the 3 Ps. That's philanthropy, policy and advocacy, and programmatic interventions. I will not go into detail to explain what we do under each of these departments. I will just say that my team works within the programmatic area of work, and here we place a strong emphasis on developing and working with partners across the country in identifying some of the needs to connect supply and demand, to connect newcomers to meaningful employment across the country, and launch innovative initiatives, catalyze coalitions to make sure that we advance that ultimate goal of immigrant inclusion. Next slide, please. Yeah, and the next slide, Levi. Thank you. I wanted to, before getting into the employer playbook, I wanted to give you a sense of how this work started. So you will see here a map that includes 3 blue dots. Those were pilot communities in which we work with in the Durham region, the Waterloo region in Ontario, and Greater Moncton in New Brunswick, to develop resources with and for employers to support their in newcomer talent acquisition needs, basically. And ultimately looking at, as the name of the initiative indicates, advancing the socioeconomic integration of immigrants in those communities. Out of this pilot, multiple things came out, among other things, a methodology and model that we're now expanding across the country. And that is how we started to work in partnership with the Lanark and Renfrew LIP and community of partners, as you will see in this map. But out of the pilots, we also developed a resource that is the employer playbook. The employer playbook is what I wanted to share with all of you, because it really provides a great opportunity for you as employers, but also to work with employers within the community on looking at how do you become an employer of choice for immigrants, refugees, and international students? How do you attract them to work for you, but also how do you ensure that they feel integrated and that therefore stay within the company and the communities where the companies are placed? Next slide, please. Yeah, so the employer playbook provides employers with very easy to implement tips that we believe can make an inclusion of immigrants in workplaces. These are proven tested resources that have been crowdsourced from among employers, immigrant employment councils from across the country, and a lot of the practices that have shown to have an impact. So some of the conversations that we had with the employers when developing the playbook was, for example, how some of them, by introducing a diversity statement or a salary range in their job description, they saw the number of immigrant applicants increasing twofold. So just to give you an example of some of the things that the playbook indicates as some of the best practices for many employers, particularly is geared towards small and medium businesses that do not have the capacity or the big HR teams that large employers have to really be able to make changes that are easy and that are also manageable within the bandwidth of these businesses. It is meal-sized, so it's not intended to be a book that people read from beginning to end, and it's more a resource that we ask employers to come to as needs arise. So if you're going through a recruitment process, go to the recruitment section, and there's a tip sheet that you can get on interview tips to make sure that you're not excluding unintentionally immigrant talent in your recruitment process. So the employer playbook, next slide, please, lives online. It is on the WES website. I will paste the link in the chat so that all of you can have it. I don't know if this chat fits into the feed loop, Levi, but otherwise, could you please share the link in the feed loop chat? This is what it looks like. So this is the table of contents. It's very intuitive. We went through several iterations of user experience, professionals looking at these so that basically whenever you click on any of the headings, next slide, please, it will take you directly to that section in the playbook. So you will see in the next slide, Levi, please. Thank you. If you click on recruiting, it will take you automatically to the recruiting section. If you further click on essential versus non-essential duties, next slide, you will see that it expands. This is all together in one page. It's very mobile friendly. There's a lot of resources that are intended to be shareable. So for example, there's a worksheet here that as a human resources professional, you can share with your hiring manager. So you click in there, there's a PDF, you download it, and then you can share that with your hiring managers as they go through the identification of the core skills that are needed for a specific job description. And there is like some formulas that you can build in to make sure that you're accounting, giving more points to skills that are essential to the job versus those that are not. But I wanted to also spend some time, I think we have about 10 minutes left for my presentation, just deep diving into some of the resources that are included in the playbook. An invitation for all of you to just play around with the playbook, see whether that is relevant to the work that you all do, but also keep it as a resource in mind as you engage with employers in your communities, something that can help them in the process. So in the next slide, you will see, sorry, the one before, Levi, please. Yeah, you'll see, for example, when, as I was saying, one of the first steps when you're recruiting immigrant talent is writing inclusive job descriptions. This may be very straightforward for many of us, but it may not be for everybody that doesn't have the capacity or the time to actually think through a job description. So some indications in the playbook about how to separate essential from non-essential skills. So for example, there is a mention to a study in 2018 from Harvard Business Review that found out that men will apply to a job if they have 60% of the qualifications, whereas women will apply only when they meet 100% of the qualifications. And there are similar research pieces that that say that this is also true to the immigrant experience. So it is critical to identify the essential duties and the non-essential. There is also a link in the playbook that connects to some benchmarks and frameworks that allows unemployers to identify for specific professions and job duties, what are some of those core skills that you may want to be identifying, and what are some of the considerations around non-essential. Other thoughts in the playbook include, for example, avoiding using long or complex words, technical terminology, jargon, acronyms, using culturally neutral qualifications. So instead of requesting a particular PMP credential, for example, so ask in the job description for the ability to plan a project and to complete it on time. Something that came up in a recent recruitment process we had at West is that we had indicated proficiency in Microsoft 365 required, but this was for an internship position. And then one of our interns actually, when they reviewed the job description, said that they don't teach you Microsoft 365 in university. You actually use other software that is free license. And so that would pose an unnecessary barrier to some of the immigrants. So talking about the ability to learn new software applications may actually be more inclusive of immigrant talent and youth and other groups. In the next slide, we have a description of another tool around hiring, which is moving beyond the unintended bias. So a few considerations there. There's a lot in the playbook, but I just wanted to highlight three. The first one is some suggestions around the panel of interviewers to make sure that you're including different views, generations, cultural backgrounds that can help reduce bias. The second one is to prepare questions in advance and sharing them with another coworker to test them out. This may help clarify the questions and also make sure that you're checking on your own bias, which we all have. Finally, there is also a whole section in the playbook that relates to competency-based tests to assess hard skills. Rather than asking simply a job applicant if they possess a certain skill, if they have this many years of experience on this specific job description, developing or using some of the available tests to test these hard skills may actually be a better way to assess immigrant talent that may not have the specific length of job experience, particularly if you're thinking of having someone that has worked in Canada. This is something we found really valuable. There's a lot of really good resources out there. I mentioned just one that allows for employers to, let's say you're hiring for a carpenter or someone that is specialized in carving. You can actually have someone through the application record themselves carving a piece of wood, so that you can actually assess the skills of the person live or record it on a video. So there's different ways to do that, and some professions, some professional backgrounds lend themselves more to these, but lots of really good resources in the playbook around that. In the next slide, I just wanted to double down on the issue around leveraging the existing diversity within the company in the screening panel. This is something that came up a lot when we talk to small employers that don't have the capacity to have a panel of interviews. They would tell us, well, I do HR, I do the interviews, I do payroll, I open the store. So I do not have the ability to create a panel. But there is opportunities in many communities to even sometimes invite some of the agencies that you work for and sit down in some of these recruitment processes. We had some agencies in Moncton, for example, that would offer that to employers. So if you want to have another set of ears sitting at your interview just to look for those cultural cues, make sure that there is some representation from other cultural backgrounds in your interview, they can actually support employers with that. There's also opportunities for other members of the team, even if they're not involved directly in the recruitment process, to be added to the panel to, again, check on those biases that we all have. On the next slide, a lot of the playbook has a lot of really good tips around reviewing resumes. I won't go into detail into all of them because we don't have much time, but I would just highlight 3 of them. The first one is overall readability, spelling, and grammatical errors. We often see, and I am guilty of this, errors in resumes as lack of attention to detail, a sign of the potential work ethic of a candidate that they may bring to the company. However, there's 2 things that the playbook invites employers to consider. First is that there are different forms of English, US, UK, Australian. I am originally from Spain, and when I first went to school and I went through my education, I learned British English. So when I came to Canada, I was getting corrected in my assignments. I came as an international student all the time because I was misspelling a lot of the things. So that's one thought. The other thing is that not being having some typos or some mistakes in English or French does not mean that the person cannot communicate at an acceptable level to competently do the job. So I think understanding the level of English that is actually required for the job needs to go beyond just reviewing the resume and the cover letter. So we may be overlooking a great candidate by not giving them a chance to come to an interview and have a conversation. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight from these slides is a thought about gaps in employment history. This is particularly important for refugee job seekers, but also for immigrants. So gaps in candidates' work history sometimes for an employer may signal that the candidates are reliable, that they may quit the new job. However, some considerations around how important it is, how long it can take to actually process a visa. So if you are back home and you're waiting on your visa to come to Canada, you're not actively looking for employment in your hometown, because in your home country, because what are you going to tell to the employer? I'm going to work for you for 2 months and then go to Canada. So there may be gaps in the employment history that are related to visa processing times. This is especially true for refugees. So as we know, people that have been forcibly displaced may have big gaps in their employment history that may be related to their displacement history. And finally, a consideration also in the playbook around education and how important it is to move beyond just assessing a candidate based on their educational background or work experience to really look at the skills that the candidate brings. Moving on to the next slide, this is very quickly, the employer playbook includes also a link to a resource that WES provides free of charge to employers that want to understand what the degree of a specific, from a specific country, university, what is the equivalency in Canada? So if you studied nursing in the Philippines, does that equate to a program here in Canada? So this tool will provide the employer with an answer. It will not provide to the employer, however, with an accreditation, certified accreditation that this specific job seeker candidate completed the degree. For that, you will need to go through the full process to get a full credential evaluation from WES. On the next slide, just also very quickly, when we talk about onboarding, there's tons of research that shows that successful onboarding leads to lower attrition rates in workplaces. So basically, the money and time that you spend on onboarding well your new employees pays off in the long term, because that means that the employee is more likely to stay within the company. So this is a great program, the buddy program, basically pairing up any employee really, but specifically immigrant, refugee, international student employees with some other colleagues in their workplace from up to 2 to 3 months. This really becomes an opportunity for them to check on what are some of the cultural cues that they may be missing in their workplace, what are some of the expectations around social activities, what are some of the expectations around about reporting, around attending meetings. Is it normal to contribute or to not contribute? So this is an informal kind of person that gives all of that insight to the new hire. On the next slide, the 3 Ps, really interesting considerations around, again, applies to everybody, but specifically true, I find, for employees from an immigrant background. I won't go into detail, but basically, who are those people that the new hire needs to be meeting? When do the meetings should occur? And this includes informal social events. So sharing with your new hires, with this employer's new hire, all of this information is very important. How do you relate to senior leadership? Is it okay to actually knock at the door and just have a conversation with senior leadership? A lot of this is heavily culturally charged in many countries. So as a newcomer, you may have a different experience, and so you want to understand as soon as possible what are the dynamics with the people in your company. Same thing around performance. Performance is highly cultural. So how do you set expectations? How do you provide feedback? What is an HR check-in, and what are the expectations for a new hire? And finally, paperwork. This includes all of the packages, the handbooks, the policies, the resources, anything that the new hire needs to really fully comprehend. I like to share an example here of when I got my first job here in Canada. As I said, I'm originally from Spain, and coming into a Canadian workplace, I was invited on day 2 of in my new job to go to HR to complete my forms. And when I went there, they told me I had to complete a designation of beneficiary form, and had no idea what that was. And I was shocked at the fact that I was already assigning, basically, if I die, like, who is it going to be the beneficiary of all of my benefits? So really walking people through the purpose of all of these forms is very critical also to understanding Canadian work culture. And finally, an invitation here in the playbook, in the next slide, to think about workplaces and workplace inclusion not just as a one-way street. Inclusion is equally about helping your existing staff or an employer's existing staff grow with the new talent. The best success stories that we hear from employers is when leaders have meaningfully prepared the workplace to include and incorporate this talent. I had a conversation recently with a group of employers in Waterloo region, and they would say, and basically what they were saying is not a matter of whether we should get ready to welcome immigrants into the workplace. The question is, when will we be ready? It's like, are we ready? Because the reality is that by 2030, the net growth of the labor force in Canada will all come from immigration. So there is, the future is here. And so lots of really good resources and tips for employers in this section on how to get ready to become, move from the towards a diversity style of leadership, so that you're really bringing the company along and the culture in the company along to become more welcoming of immigrants. So I will stop there and happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So we're going to pass it on now to Farah and Noha. Over to you.
Thank you, Mackenzie, and thank you, Danielle, for the presentation. Noha will be sharing the slides. Hi. So WASO, as a start, WASO is an SDI project funded by the IRCC and is hosted by the YMCA of the National Capital Region. Our team is, next slide. Our team include researcher, Dr. Noha Zahir, and she's presenting with me today. Our program facilitator, Hani Apal, and our outreach worker, Adis. We have been working on this project for almost 2 years and a half now. So basically today we will go through the program deliverables and our research activities, research approach, what we have been doing regarding the digital inclusion of newcomers to have more equitable services. We'll go through our digital literacy training handbook that we have created, and we will be sharing it with you as well today. We will go over the WASO settlement service model for hybrid services delivery and our developed toolkit, and then our supplementary resources that we will also be happy to share it with you. So as a start, the program deliverables is basically focusing on optimization of settlement services. We're trying to understand what type of services from the 6 settlement service category are better delivered online, in what format, and for what type of clients. We also worked with a group of newcomers who were only comfortable using in-person services, and they were not comfortable using online services. So we trained them on digital literacy skills, and then we followed up with them for 3 months in order to almost more than 3 months, maybe like 75 days to help them with a transition plan, to help them with all the resources they need, and by as much as possible removing the barriers for them to access online services. And then we have created also resources and toolkit for to help SPOs evaluate their hybrid services and like spot wherever there is areas where they have to improve and know what they are doing good and what are the areas that they need to improve, and helping them optimize their hybrid services. And then we have been training almost 464 staff so far on using our toolkit, and we will be following up with them for 3 months now to help them improve and implement these tools. So our research approach has been first we started going through literature review, existing similar studies on hybrid service delivery models. We reviewed 250 reports and similar research. We have conducted focus groups with both staff that works with the newcomers and the newcomers. We have conducted also surveys with 240 clients and 260 staff. We have done an experiment and digital literacy training to 40 clients. We did a toolkit, created a toolkit, we piloted it, and then we finalized it based on the piloted feedback. And then what we are doing now is knowledge mobilization. And what we have been doing so far is creating infographics, blogs, networking with partners. We organized at least 6 webinars with other SDI projects, and we are presenting at several conferences. We already had presented at some, and we will be presenting at more conferences. We have created a WASO webpage, and it should be published soon. It's already final, but we're waiting on finalizing some tools and booklet before publishing the webpage. And then we are translating some of our tools to French also. So among our plan for knowledge mobilization is attending and presenting at conferences. So we will be presenting at the OCASI. We have a discussion panel on October 26th. We will be presenting at the 6th Metropolis Conference. We have a session, and we are presenting at the P2P conference. We have 2 sessions where we are presenting also with the GSUR conference, and we have two other conferences date to be determined in January and February with the Metropolitan, Toronto University, and Toronto LIP. Also, we have been training, as I mentioned earlier, almost more than 450 staff. We are now at 464 staff trained from different provinces, and almost 154 different organizations has been trained. We have trained 18 from Alberta, 35 from British Columbia, 26 from Manitoba, 9 from New Brunswick, 36 from Nova Scotia, 323 from Ontario, 6 from Quebec, and 11 from Saskatchewan. And as you see, we have been recruiting for training from different cities in Ontario, same for Alberta, Quebec, Saskatchewan, and the other provinces. Our target was to have as much as possible diverse like staff being trained. And that's why we had almost trained 154 organizations. So another thing we were working on, and it was part of our project deliverables, is digital inclusion of newcomers. In order to have an equitable services, first we have to acknowledge the digital divide among newcomers. Then we have to ensure that services are accessible to all, regardless of their technology proficiency. Then, in order to empower newcomers to access services effectively, we have to tailor our services to accommodate newcomers, that have low digital skills. And then we have to provide tools and resources to assess and enhance newcomers' digital skills. And then we have to work toward bridging the digital gap among newcomers by supporting newcomers with digital literacy training and resources to reduce barriers. So what we have asked 260 staff, and 87.7% agreed that settlement service organizations should provide training services for clients to use digital tools, such as Zoom, to access services. Similarly, we have asked also clients, newcomers, we have asked them about also their opinion about providing training session for them and to other newcomers to use digital tools such as the Zoom platform to access services online, and 70.8% agreed or strongly agreed that they think that settlement services should provide them with training sessions for digital skills. Now, we ask staff also how would they rate the significance of digital literacy training in enhancing client employability, and more than 92% think that it's very important to extremely important that digital literacy, they think that it's important and extremely important, and that digital literacy training would enhance clients' employability. Also, we have asked staff how would they rate the significance of digital literacy training in enhancing clients' integration into society, and more than 72%, or no, more than 82% agrees that it's very important and digital literacy skill would enhance clients' integration into society. And among working on this also deliverable, we had created a digital skill training handbook. It's easy, like it has a very simple language. Like we made sure that clients with CLP even 3 can use it easily, because we included a lot of pictures, and they can just navigate through it. It's a very simple language, and it went through a lot of editing so that it's very simple. because we also know, in addition to having problems with having like adequate digital skills, a lot of newcomers also have the barrier of the language. So basically our handbook include internet basics, email basics, video conferencing, and this handbook is also will be shared on our webpage, and we can also share it. We already sent it to the organizer of the summit, and they will be also sending this to you and sharing it with you. So we have done like a small experiment, and we have trained 40 clients that were only comfortable using in-person services, and they were not comfortable using online services. And after 15 days, we have sent follow-up surveys to those clients, and 67.5% reported that they had improvement in knowledge of how internet works, and 60% reported that they have improvement of knowledge of how the computer works. Both of these percentages have been improved after 75 days, because during the 75 days, we tailored a plan for each of them, a transition plan, and then we helped them with the resources and provided them with more training based on their needs and based on their feedback. And these percentages have increased to 72.5% after 75 days follow-up. Now, I will hand this to Noha. Noha will take you through our hybrid service model development and our developed tools and resources as well. Noha.
Thank you, Farah. Evaluation of online services, a client-centric approach. So what we have done in the WESA team is that from the 240 clients surveys that we collected, we analyzed them by SPSS and AMOS. We used exploratory factor analysis to group the items in the questionnaires into dimensions, and used confirmatory factor analysis to confirm those dimensions, and then used structural equation modelings to see the interactions between those dimensions. And this is the outcome of this analysis. So to evaluate hybrid services, you need to understand first what are the relevant dimensions that you will evaluate, or what's the criteria of the evaluation. And this is the criteria that we concluded. The first thing, acceptance of online services. For online services, for clients to accept online services, they need to have the feeling that they are easy to use and useful, because sometimes digital literacy is one factor that they can't access online services, but another time it's complicated, or the process is not intuitive. And we have classified the dimensions into service-specific and newcomer-specific dimensions. The service-specific dimensions are staff performance. So we evaluate staff based on empathy, reliability, assurance, website content, and accessibility, because most of newcomers will visit the website of the service provider, will see the information, whether they're eligible for the program, and web security, because usually the clients provide sensitive information, such as their UCI number or their SIN number. So protecting the privacy of clients is very important, and explaining to them how the information is used is equally important to make them comfortable sharing this information. The second set of dimensions are newcomer-specific dimensions, and these are not specific to the service itself, but are specific to the client. But the service provider can help them, like Farah said earlier, with digital literacy, and so to transition to online services. So these kind of barriers would be digital literacy, cost and speed of internet, device ownership, language proficiency, and in-person preference. Some clients just prefer the in-person interaction for socialization and so on. And so they will, regardless of the quality of the online services, they will opt for the in-person services. Based on the model, we created the quality assessment toolkit for hybrid settlement services in Canada to help SPOs evaluate their hybrid services. It has three main tools that we call them the evaluation plan. So this is our evaluation plan. We start by data collection. So we collect the data through client questionnaires because we have a client approach. We have a client feedback that is relevant to the hybrid service quality and uses the model. And to evaluate the quality of your service using tool number 2, we use a ready-to-use Excel template to analyze the data generated from the client questionnaire to aid in decision-making. And 3, improve the quality of the services using tool number 3, which is the continuous improvement plan. You make a log of the areas that are flagged by the data analysis, and you make plans to change this, assign roles and timelines, and review the outcomes later. So here I'll give you some more details about tool number 1. So our tool number 1 is it's an evaluation tool based on the WESO model. It uses an importance performance analysis scale. So what is importance performance analysis scale? It's actually that the client gives an answer about each service specific dimension or statement, whether it's important to them and whether also the organization is doing well. So maybe, yes, we're doing very well on some aspects, but it's not important to the client, so it won't be a priority. So this is the main idea of the importance performance analysis. It will give the SPO the areas that they should focus on and the areas that they should not focus on. Client feedback. So why is client feedback very important? Because establishing a formal feedback channel is crucial for organizations to establish a structured way to collect client feedback. It allows them to continuously improve services based on real client experience. And it also shows that you're valuing and supporting your clients and that their concerns are important to you. Also, a formal feedback process encourages service providers to take ownership and be accountable for the quality of the services they deliver. So it enhances the accountability of the service provider. And our client feedback tool, because it's designed in a certain way, because we have our service quality expert, so she designed that, and she did suggested the use of importance performance analysis because it's a management tool, and this management tool allows you to classify statements into 4 quadrants with recommendations, and these 4 recommendations are the first quadrant would be, quadrant A is the needs improvement. It will give you or will flag areas that the organization is performing low on, but it's important to the client. So you should focus on and improve. And it will give you quadrant B, the keep up the good work, which will give you the areas that you're doing great at and the organization is doing well and it's very important to them. And quadrant C, low priority, because these will be the areas that will be flagged by the analysis that they're not very important. Yes, the organization is not performing so well at, but it's not important to the client, so we don't need to focus on. And quadrant D, possible overkill, high performance and low importance. These are areas that the organization is doing really well on, but they're not important to the client. So it shouldn't be a priority, and the organization should cut waste and focus on other areas. And this outcome, this importance performance analysis, will be generated automatically by our client Excel, by our ready-to-use Excel template. So our tool number 2, all you need to do, like in most survey building tools such as SurveyMonkey, Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, you can take all the responses from the clients in one Excel and just copy and paste this Excel into our ready-to-use Excel template that has automated formulas and everything. And it will generate a full importance performance analysis for you with the 4 quadrants that tells you where are the areas that you need to focus on and where are the areas that are not important and where are the areas of waste. It will also give you categorized summary statistics for the WESO hybrid model with dashboards for service specific and newcomer specific dimensions that were explained in the WESO model. So our WESO toolkit, our ready to use Excel template. These are snapshots, and actually we have shared in our training, we have shared this tool, all of these tools for free to all our participants, and we do the same. They will be published in our website. So, and these are snapshots from the ready-to-use Excel template. It looks like a web page, and you can navigate easily from one page to another, similar to a web page. And this is the full IPA analysis dashboard. It has the chart, and each number here is every statement, with whether the statement is high performance or low performance, high importance or low importance, and the relevant quadrant for each statement. It also gives you summarized statistics for the service quality dimensions, and this we just have a snapshot for the staff performance, but we have the same for the website content and accessibility, and we have the same for the web security as well. So it will give you all the statements that are related to this and the client's responses for each state, because all of this is based on the client feedback. And this is the newcomer dimensions dashboard. It summarizes the statements that are related to the newcomer specific dimensions. So with tool number three is just the last step, just a way to enhance, to get organized and promote data-driven decision making. So it doesn't add new information, but you take the information from the IPA analysis that was created in the Excel template, and you see what were the areas of intervention, the flagged areas that were in the IPA report. You assign responsibility and timelines for improvements and review the outcomes later. It's an Excel template as well, and it has a page for each service-specific dimension. So taking an example of the staff performance dashboard, you will do that in 3 easy steps. The first step would be for each statement, you self-rate. So every employee will self-rate whether they're doing well, they're complying, exceeding, partially compliant with each statement. And why are they providing this self-rating? This is step number 2. And then we'll go to the Excel template and see what is the IPA saying. Is it an area that's keep up the good work, low priority, needs improvement, and then adjust accordingly. If it's a needs improvement, then there should be a person responsible for this action, and then review the outcomes of the changes later to make sure that you have addressed the client's concerns. And one thing I forget to bring is that the IPA analysis, I know we are the final thing, the IPA analysis will be generated based on aggregate responses. So it won't be based on one response or one client, it will be based on all the client responses. The final thing in our presentation is just to give you a brief about each of our supplementary tools. We have a readiness assessment tool. It contains 2 checklists, one for client readiness, that you can take part of your intake to make sure that the client is ready and to tailor your services to the client abilities. And the second is assessing organizational readiness for hybrid services. And this is a checklist that you can use to see how mature your organization is and whether they're ready for hybrid services, what are their weak points, and you can discuss all these in the checklist with your staff and see what are the points that can be changed and how you can change them. And we have a document for promising practices, and these cover the 5 dimensions that are in the Western model with very useful tips for high quality hybrid services delivery. And our last but not least appendix 2, the hybrid work resources guide. It's a repository of links that had links for online digital literacy resources, devices and connectivity programs, online directory resources in our community, tips and resources for effective hybrid work. It has so many useful resources that you can use that can help you with your hybrid services and your hybrid work. And this is the final, this is the wrap of our presentation. I hope it was useful. Thank you so much for listening. And any questions?
Okay, thank you so much to all our presenters and speakers for sharing your insights, your strategies. You're all doing some incredible work in this space, and we're so fortunate to have you share that today. We are running a little short on time, so we won't be taking any questions. However, on our FeedLoop platform, for each presenter, we've shared resources. There will be resources shared afterwards as well. So if you have any further questions or you want to dig into a little more of what was presented today, there are those options, and I think folks can also reach out to the organizations here today. So again, I'd like to thank Daniel, Farah, and Noha again for your time, the outstanding workshops. Thank you to all our attendees for joining us today, and we hope to see some of you in our next 3 p.m. workshop. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.